If you are a do-it-all person, the person that is the designer, the planner, the organizer, you're taking out the trash, this one right here is for you. My name is Leah T. Porter, and I am a serial entrepreneur, as I like to call it. And today we are diving deep into how you can build a team, especially if you're a person who does it all by yourself, or you're used to doing it all by yourself. Stay tuned. Building a team is hard for multiple different reasons. You want to make sure, one, that you build the right team with the right people, with the right skills, the right knowledge, the right resources, the right motives. But then you also want to make sure that you are in a place financially to be able to afford team members, to be honest. And I know for a lot of people who are running and operating things, oftentimes that is what stops you from taking on new team members, from building a team, from hiring people, that you feel like you are not financially ready. And so I get that and I understand that. But listen, the only way that things are gonna move forward for you, and this is something that I had to learn, is bringing in help. And there are some ways that even if you're not in a space financially to be able to build a team, there are things and there are ways that you can do that. So I've talked a lot about like how I got my first foot into like entrepreneurship and like building something from the ground up, which was opening up the conservatory. I started that with $0. I started that with on a dream. I tell people I started that on a dream and a prayer. A dream of building something and a prayer that I would actually be able to get the things that I need to start. And when I first started out, I started teaching my first dance classes at Parks and Rec Center here locally in my community. And I was operating out of 2 rec centers, both located in the same community, in the same area, but just a little distance away from each other, maybe about 8, close to 10 minutes away from each other. But I didn't have a space, like I didn't have a building, I didn't have my own, dance studio, I didn't have any of that. Really, all I had was a dream and a prayer. A dream to create something and a prayer asking God to put the things that I needed for that dream to come true in my path. And Parks and Rec just made sense. And it was a full circle moment for me because at the tender age of 13, I taught my very first dance class and never stopped teaching since. And my first dance class was taught at one of those park and recreational centers in that same dance space that at the time I was now starting a company and starting a conservatory. And so it was really a full circle moment for me that felt really, really good. But I knew for me, it wasn't necessarily like the end goal, but it just felt so good to start. I was the only teacher. I was teaching, I had about 23 or 24 students. They were all family and friends. So family, friends that I went to school with, friends that I met in my young adulthood, are friends of family members, was the 20-something people that I had. And it was people that believed in me, believed in the work that I had done for many, many years prior. And so I started off small. So it was very manageable, right? 20-something kids. And I went in with a very clear vision of what I wanted to build, what I wanted to create, what the environment was going to be like, what the classes were going to be like, what the concerts were going to, like I knew exactly what I wanted. And so without really thinking about, oh, I need extra teachers, I need this, I need that, I just got to work. Like I taught the classes, prepared the kids for our first show that next year in June. And it was everything that I could never imagine in the best way possible. As me telling this story, you can see and understand why for many years, even following that, I did a lot of things myself. Once I even actually was able to get a building and actually have my own dance studio, my own space, and started hiring teachers. You know this saying, they have this saying in business, you hire slow, but you fire fast. And I've always been a slow hire. And there's very specific people and bodies that I want in this space, especially when it comes to working with kids. And so it took a while to build teachers, but I built it at a pace that made sense for me and for the way the business was going. And so as the classes started growing and I started getting an influx of students, then I started hiring. Like I would hire an extra teacher, you know, this year. And then the next year, okay, we have an additional 10 or 20 students, I would hire another teacher. But from the administrative side, like I was just doing everything myself, you know, balancing the books. The first couple of shows I did 90% of the choreography for. I've talked about this a lot. I was the janitor, I was, you know, sometimes the electrician, the accountant, and the videographer, the photographer. I used to literally take my own headshots of the students for our program book and to put it up in the lobby area. I used to do it all to the point, y'all, where I actually one year bought a Cricut machine. I bought a heat press machine because I said I was gonna start doing, and in some capacity did, start doing my own like t-shirts and apparel. And I did, but it became too much. And so lo and behold, I can really go on a tangent about my experience starting my first business and doing everything by myself. But lo and behold, even for years to come after that, I was still doing a lot of things by myself. It really wasn't until recently, maybe about 2 years, going on 3 years ago, where I really started to feel the pressure, right? And let me say this, there are reasons why people, even when they don't have to, feel the need to do everything themselves. And one of those things is like trust issues. Maybe you've trusted people with things and they were not able to follow through, or something happened, but you don't necessarily trust people to get the job or get the work done. Perfectionism, which is something that doesn't exist and really shouldn't exist. But if you're a person that suffers from perfectionism and suffers from that, they won't be able to do it as good as I do it, then that would really stop you from, you know, getting help, getting the help you need and feeling like you have to do everything yourself because they won't do it how you do it or as good as you do it. And then scarcity mindset, you know, feeling like you can't afford help, which again, that is the one that is the biggest idea or thing that stays stuck in people's brains, is that they think they can't afford to hire help. So a lot of times it will be easier or more affordable. I can save money if I just do it myself. And listen, that right there, that is definitely me. And that has been me to the point to where even now I have to like training my brain to be like, nah, there's a way that you can figure it out, how to bring help, whether it's delegating, whether it's doing, you know, contract work. There are ways, but even now I catch myself saying, oh, I can do that. You know, I don't need to hire anybody. You know, and I'm gonna share this with you. Just recently, I'm wanting to do more content, put more content out. And there's lots of content creators, and hiring help and hiring people in different facets is not always cheap. And I started thinking like, you know what? I could just edit my own videos. I could just record my own thing, edit my own videos. And I don't need to hire a social media manager or content creator. And listen, as soon as I downloaded an app and started messing with it, I'm like, oh no. Let me figure out how I can hire somebody to edit these videos, to get this out, because instantly I was like, there's no way. And so even when you feel like you can't afford it, there are things that you can do to figure out how to get the help that you need. So how did I start building a team and getting rid of the scarcity mindset and thinking that I can do all of it myself? Is by starting out with a vision and not necessarily thinking about a job title to give someone. Anything that we do, anything that we create, of course, starts with a vision, a clear vision of what it is that you want and what it is, more importantly, that you need to see that vision come to life. So make a list. Make a list of all the things that you have to do, all the tasks that you do and responsibilities that you have, and start from the smallest thing on your list all the way to like the most important thing, right? The thing that maybe you do need to kind of keep your hand in and keep your hand on. But those things that may be like number 15 or number 10, start looking at ways that you can, you know, delegate, or how can you bring in people to come in. And look, listen, sometimes hiring individuals that can do multiple different things. So there may be like 3 or 4 things that you need to get done specifically for this quarter, but there might be one person that you can hire for all 4 of those things. So the first thing is to make a list of all the things that you do, all the tasks that you have to get done, and number them from the most important to the least important. And then the things that are at the bottom of that list, try to figure out how you can get someone and delegate someone to those more simple tasks that are truly simple, but that still take up a lot of our time and a lot of our energy that we could be spending on big picture ideas. So this is one, like, hiring for heart sometimes is okay over hiring for skill, especially when you're in a certain part of like your journey in your career, right? Sometimes having the people that are open and willing to be there, that have good energy, that are open and willing to learn, are better than people that may have great skills but may not be people, individuals, may not have the right energy, or may not have the right passion for the work that it is that you do in the work that you do in your company. And so maybe sometimes be open to those people that may not have the skills that you necessarily are looking for, but have the heart, have the drive, have the ability and the openness to learn, and are passionate and show up. You know, there are lots of people that have showed up in different ways when it comes to things that I've done. And, you know, we've learned along the way together. I've been very open to giving them the space to learn and to grow. And that's one reason why I love working with like young adults and college age students. Like people that may be not necessarily professionally in this career, they might be in school learning and training for it, but a lot of times those are the ones that are really hungry, they want the opportunity to learn, they want to get hands-on training, and it's just the energy and the vibe. And then you give them the space as well to be creative and innovative in their own right and bring their own ideas forward and work together to build something. It's magical when it happens. Be open to hiring for heart and not necessarily always for skill. I'm not saying that skill is not important, because they have to have some skills, but it's okay if they're not like number one in their industry. Delegating the right way. Listen, you want to delegate. Delegation is great, but even in delegating the work, make sure that you are super clear on what your vision, your mission is, and what your expectation is. Clearly identify the goal of whatever this individual is hired to do. Make sure that they understand what the deliverables are. They understand the timeline. They understand what it should look like. You want to make sure that you are super duper clear on what your expectations are. You don't want to waste anybody's time. You don't want anybody to waste your time. And then another thing is, no matter what, you're 9 times out of 10, you're paying for it. And so you want to make sure that even though you're delegating, you're getting to that point of delegating, you still want to make sure that you are being very clear of what the expectations are. Let people have a little ownership in how they bring things to the forefront in your organizations, right? Don't be a super micromanager. And listen, I'm a person, I feel like for me, it's important for me to be in the know and to in some way have my hands in every single aspect of what I'm doing. As the person who is leading the charge, it's my responsibility to know every single detail in every single department, in every single way of what's taking place and what's happening. And so I always want to be in the know. I always want to kind of have my hands in all of these different areas, but at the same time, I'm not going to, and I don't want to micromanage you. I'm not coming behind you to make sure you're doing work, to make sure you're doing this, to make sure, no, I'm going to clearly state what I need and what I want. I want to make sure that I'm in the know of what's going on, but I don't want to micromanage. And that's something that you don't want to do. You want to allow people to, again, to have some kind of ownership in what they bring, you know, and feel open and comfortable to bringing those ideas and those thoughts to the forefront and not micromanage every little thing. Very important. So some really strong lessons in how to build a team. Number one, you as a leader, as an owner, as a founder, as a director, are not less than or not capable because you have help. And I think a lot of people lead with they feel like they have to do everything as a leader because they have to be the one that possesses the power to do all of these things. Doesn't mean that you have to burn yourself out. Because oftentimes a lot of people are very capable of doing certain things, but just because you're capable of doing it doesn't mean that you have to, right? And of course we know the saying like, You know, you want to hire people that know how to do things that you are not necessarily the best at. This particular conversation that we're having, that I'm having with you all, is not about that, right? It's really about how do you build a team. And that statement that I made, making sure that you don't feel less than because you have to hire help. Like you have to let that go. You gotta let that go, because the only way that you are gonna be able to scale and grow is if you get the help. Doing everything yourself, you're gonna be stagnant and you won't get anywhere. I promise you, you won't get anywhere. A team doesn't mean like hierarchy, it means trust. One of the biggest things that you have to do is make sure that you trust your team members, but that they also trust you. Again, that goes back to being very clear on what the mission and the vision is, knowing how to articulate that and what role each one of these individuals and people play in making sure that that mission and that vision is played out and comes to life. And trusting each other that you're gonna get the job done, you're gonna get the work done. Even as the leader, you have a job as well to do, and you wanna make sure that you do it well, so that way your team members can trust that you are leading them in the right direction, plain and simple. And then the culture that you create, culture sometimes in some capacities is more important than talent. The culture that you are building in your business, in your environment, in your office is important. And sometimes you can have the most talented people in the world that just don't work out. It could be the energy that they bring. They are not necessarily the best people for the culture that you are trying to build in your institute or in your organization or in whatever it is that you're doing. And so having the right people with the right energy, with the right mindset, that matters just as much as the talent. So remember, you're not building a team to necessarily replace you. You're building a team to really push forward the mission and the vision of your company, of your organization, of your institution. It's thinking about the bigger picture, right? It's not about you, but it's about the thing that you are a part of. How can this thing grow? How can we make this thing, this big business, this company, this product, you know, this team, this company, as big as it possibly can be? That is your motive whenever you are thinking about building a team. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. As always, I always say, no matter who you are, there are gems that you can gather from just about anything. So I hope that there was some things that were helpful for you and to you. And I want you to come back, and if you subscribe to this channel, then you will know when to come back, okay? Make sure that you like, make sure that you subscribe, and make sure that you hit us up in the comments and give us some feedback of what you think about, like, how do you build teams? What are some things that are holding you back from hiring new people or bringing new team members on? Bye.